Hello my people, welcome to another tutorial. My name is Agnes. In today's tutorial I'll show you how I made this peplum top. Initially I had a very different idea, but it turned out a peplum eventually, and you'll see that in the tutorial. It's very easy. I'll give you the measurements that you need to take to be able to make this in any size, customize it the way that you like. You can style it in any way. I did this on jeans and it looked quite well and I loved it. So it's not hard. It's using the double crochet stitch, which is quite easy for most beginners. So yeah, we are just going to go straight into the tutorial. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using this yarn. It's durable comfy yarn. It's from Durable Yarn, and it's 100 grams or 266 meters long. It's 100% microfiber acrylic. It's sport yarn or size 2 or fine yarn, and it recommends a 3 to 4 millimeter hook. This is color ivory. Yeah, you can find free patterns on durableyarn.com. And also for the hook size, I'm going to be using a 3 millimeter hook size, scissors, tape measure, and you're going to use stitch markers too. So for this top, we are going to work the back panel first, and then we'll do the front panels and then join them together, do these single crochet rows, do a little bit of this button part, the sleeves, the collar, and then the ruffle part at the end. Initially I didn't want to do the ruffle, the peplum part here at the bottom, but then my top, I just wanted to be like just a little straight top. And then it was too short. I made it too short, so I added this part, but I think it turned out well. So you can either do just this part without the peplum or just add this flared part at the bottom, whatever you like. All right, I'll just show you how I did everything. For the foundation chain, you're going to make a slip knot, and then you are going to chain enough chains that are equivalent to your shoulder to shoulder measurement. So take a tape measure, put your tape measure on one tip of your shoulder to the other tip of the shoulder, and see how many those are, how many inches that is, and then make that chain. Or you can just Google women's shoulder to shoulder measurements, and Google will tell you for each size. So this is what I have. I chained 14 inches. A size extra small, and now we are going to go to row 1, but for row 1 we are going to add a turning chain. So before row 1 you're going to chain 2, which is a turning chain. So 1, 2, so this will be our turning chain, and then you're going to yarn over because you're going to be using double crochets, and instead of, you're going to skip 2 stitches. This first stitch, this is the second stitch without counting the one on the hook. So 1, 2 into the third one, and instead of working into the chain like this, we are going to work at the back. So skip 1, 2 and into the third one, you'll work in this third loop that is at the back. Okay, if this is hard for you, just work in the normal loop. I just thought it looks nicer at the bottom. Just trying out new stuff. So make a double crochet. This chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, so this is a first double crochet, and you're going to go into the next chain and you're going to make a double crochet into the next chain, double crochet, and you are going to make 1 double crochet in every stitch until you get to the end. All right, I will see you at the end of the row. So this is what I have. This is my double crochet row. Yep. So now we are going to go to row 2. We are going to be working rows of double crochet, but only in the front loop. All right, so for row 2, you are going to chain 2, chain 2, and then turn your work. So yarn over and turn your work. So the chain 2 does not count as a stitch. In this very first stitch, we're going to go under these 2 loops, like you normally do your double crochet, under the 2 loops, and then make a double crochet. But then the next ones, instead of going in both loops, we are only going to go in the front loop. So this loop here, the front loop, is where we are going to make our double crochet like that. So instead of the 2 loops, we are only going in the front loop and double crochet. So you're going to make 1 double crochet in every front loop of the stitch until you get to the end, and I'll see you there so that we can finish off the row. So this is how it looks at the front, but at the back it looks something like this. So getting to the end here, and this is my second last stitch. So the last stitch we're going to work in the 2 loops and not just the front loop. So the last stitch, go in these 2 loops and work your last stitch there. So this is my last stitch, right? Because the chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, right? So now we are going to go to row 3, which is a repeat of row 2, but I'm just going to show you. Okay, so it's a repeat of row 2. This is how you begin and end every row. So this is how you end it, and this is how you begin it. So chain 2, yarn over, turn your work, and where we work the front loop, you see how it looks like. Okay, so now chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so you go into these 2 loops first and make a double crochet. And then we are going to work only in the front loops. By the way, you can work in both loops. I just feel like it looks flatter and better like this, so this is just my preference. You can work in both loops. So we are going to work the front loops, double crochet in each stitch, and basically this is the repeat pattern. It's a repeat of 1 row. You're going to continue doing this until you have the length of the shirt that you want. So this will be our back panel, and we'll work until we get to the top of the shoulder. So see if that's the length that you want, and then we'll come back and do the front panels. So I'm done with my back panel, and as you can see, the length is, let's see, 12 inches long. That's how I wanted my top, how long I wanted my top to be. So if you want your top longer, then add more rows until you get your desired length. And for the front panels, what you're going to do is you're going to find the middle part of your work. So I already counted all my stitches from here to here, and I divided them by 2. So the middle of my stitch, that's where that is. All right, so once you have the middle, then I'm going to count 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then into the 7th stitch I put a stitch marker. So I just want to determine how wide my front panels will be, because I want to leave this space for the single crochet part that is in the middle. So this is about an inch. Okay, so I'm leaving about an inch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so into the 7th. All right, so I'm leaving about an inch from the middle side, and we're going to work single crochets on that front part. So for the front panels, they're going to be the stitches from here all the way to this side. So I count all the stitches on here, and for me, from where my stitch marker is all the way to this side is 32 stitches. So I have 32 on this side, I have 32 on this side, so I have 6 and 6, that's 12. All right, so you can imagine that. But so now we are going to do the front panels, which is just from this end to where my first stitch marker is, and that's 32 stitches for me. So let's do that. So the front panel is just like the back panel. I already did one, just smaller. It's the same pattern. Okay, it's just smaller than the back, but it's, you know, same thing, same pattern, just like how we started, but I'm just going to repeat that for you. So you start with foundation chain equivalent to that part that I already showed you. So mine is going to be 32 stitches, so I'm going to chain 32. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, and I'm going to come when I have, so I have my 32. This is how wide it is. And then to start on row 1, of course, you're going to chain 2. That's our turning chain, and into the third chain we are working in these small loops at the back, the back loops here. So double crochet, chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, double crochet only in this back, the loop behind. Okay, so I'm going to do that until the end. I should have my 32 double crochets in the end, and then I'll see you for round 2. So done with row 1, and for row 2 you already know the pattern. You chain 2, turn your work, and then in this first stitch you work in both loops, double crochet, and then in this next stitch you only work in the front loops. Until you get to the end, and I'll meet you at the end to show you once again how to the end. And I have 2 stitches left, so this I'll work only in the back, I mean only in the front, and then the last one you're going to go into both loops like this and make our last double crochet. So it's going to be a repeat. So you chain 2, turn your work, and first one is a double crochet in both loops, and then the next only in the front loop, and you're just going to repeat this until you have the same number of rows. Repeat row 2 until you have the same number of rows as you had for your back panel, and then once you're done, I already have mine. It looks like this. So this is mine. It's the same number of rows as my back one, and then I will do another identical one starting with the same number of chains, and I will see you once you have the 2 so that we can join them to the back. Okay, so this is what I have. I did 2 panels that are very identical, and now we need to join them, but we need to find exactly where to leave the neckline. So arrange them depending on how you want to sew them, which one you prefer, the side that you prefer. I'm going to be sewing using a darning needle, so I will sew on the right side. That's the side that I like most, will be facing up. But if you're using a slip stitch to join, then let your wrong side, or whatever side you don't like best, be facing up instead. Okay, so now I need to leave 5 inches in here for the neckline. So what I'm going to do is, I already have this stitch marker marking the middle point, so which means 2.5 on this side and 2.5 inches on the other side. So I will need 2.5 from where my stitch marker is to where this starts, and that's about 2.5. So I'm going to put a stitch marker, it's here, and I count the stitches. So this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 stitches. So I'm going to leave from here to here. I need to find the number of stitches. So I had 6 before, like I had showed you, so this is now 15, so I need to leave 9 on this one. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So in the middle here is where, like this. Okay, all right, so the same 2.5, 15 stitches, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 stitch marker in the middle, those double crochets, and here I think I have 9 plus 6 is 15. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So in the middle, the 9th and the 10th. All right, so now the stitches here is the same number as the stitches from here to here. All right, so just make sure you have the same number of stitches on the side. Okay, same number of stitches from here to here, from here to here, put that stitch marker. All right, so this will be our neckline. I'm going to join using a darning needle, just sew it together. I think for me, I find this it's more neater than when I use a slip stitch. It's slower but neater, but everybody has their favorite, so use your favorite joining method. As long as you have these two joined together, that's all that matters. Whatever method is easier for you, please use that. Oops, what am I doing? I don't know which one is which. Tying with the wrong one. All right, so I'm just going to be going in the inside loops, these loops that are close to each other, like from in, out. I saw someone comment that is so funny that I don't know how to sew things together. I'm not an expert in everything. I just design clothes, and these little details I'm also just learning on the way. So if you know how to sew better than I do, you can teach me. Why not? Or just sew in a method that you find better, because it's just sewing things together. It doesn't affect how the outfit turns out. You know, whatever method you use to sew that you like, use that. So I'm going to do this. Basically, this is how it looks. I'm going to do this until I get to stitch marker, and then once I'm done, I cut it off, and then I will do this other side too, and I'll see you once you have both of them sewed. So once we have everything to attach together here at the top, we're going to do the single crochet lines here on the sides of the front. I already did 5 rows on this side of single crochet. I'm going to show you how I did that. So you're going to start either at this corner or on the other side, you start at the bottom. So I'm going to reattach my yarn, and then I'm going to chain 1, here where I've attached my yarn, I'm going to make a single crochet. So I want us to make 5 single crochets in every 2 rows. So this row 1, row 2, we make 5 single crochets in those 2 rows. So how I'm going to place them for me is I'll go in this first one with 1 without counting this first one, yeah, 1, and then here between the stitches I go in with my 2, and then in this row here I'm going to go in with 2 more, 3 and 4, and then at the top here I'm going to put the 5th. So it's I repeat that again in this first row, this one, yeah, in this stitch I'm going to put 1 at the top of the stitch, 2 in this stitch I'll put 3 and 4, and then at the top of the stitch 5. So just put 5 single crochets in 2 rows. So the rows I mean 1 2 1 2, those 2 rows should have 5 single crochets in there, and then I'll meet you when you're at the bottom. So I'm getting to the end. I have 1 row left, and I just hurt my finger. Half of my fingernail is like gone. Really, it hurts really bad. Anyway, I'm going to put 1 in this last row, and then 1 at the top here, like that. And then you're going to chain 1, and for the next row you're going to turn your work, and then in that very first single crochet in both loops you're going to make a single crochet, and you're going to go into every single crochet stitch with another single crochet until you get to the end. So you have 1 single crochet in every stitch until the end, and once you get to the end you'll chain 1, turn your work, and repeat like that over and over again until you have 5 rows and you have something looking like this. All right, I'll see you once you have 5 rows. So on the first part you're going to start your single crochets here, and you'll work your way up down until you have 5. Then you'll cut off your yarn over here, and for this side you'll start on this side, you work your yarn up and down, and your 5th stitch row, the stitch will be down here. So when you get to that, the second one, do not cut off your yarn, and what we're going to do is we're going to join part of this and leave this other part. All right, so I'm going to be leaving 7 inches from top to down. Depends on what you like. You can leave longer or shorter, depends on what you like, but I'm leaving 7 inches. So I'm going to measure until I have 7 inches here, and put a stitch marker, and on the other side too, just for reference. So I'm going to join now from the bottom all the way until I get to where I have my stitch marker. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is join this part here using a slip stitch, and I'm joining this on the side that will be on the outside, on the right side. So I'm just going to slip stitch my way till I get to the stitch marker, attach my hook and pull this through. So I'm going into every stitch and making a slip stitch. So I'll slip stitch my way to here. So I'm going to slip stitch only in the outer loops. Okay, so this loop here, only the outer loop, and on the other side the outer loop, and then make a slip stitch. Outer loop here, outer loop on this side, slip stitch. So I'm going to do that until I get to here where I have my stitch marker. So I came all the way to where I have my stitch marker. I have one stitch left. So I'll go in both loops like this and make a slip stitch. So I have everything joined here in the middle, and we're going to do the puff stitch. So you're going to chain 2, and then you're going to turn your work. So we're going to now work our way towards the bottom. So for the puff stitch is you're going to make a half double crochet in this first stitch. Oh, that was a double crochet. Make a half double crochet, pull through all the 3 loops, and then you're going to yarn over and you're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and into the 3rd stitch you're going to make another half double crochet. All right, so now you're going to go into this space between your 2 half double crochets. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to go in, pull your yarn through. You have 3 loops. That's 1 incomplete half double crochet. You yarn over again, you do your 2nd time, yarn over again, your 3rd one, yarn over again, and your 4th one, yarn over again, and your 5th one, and then you're going to pull through all the loops like that. Okay, and then you're going to yarn over. So next is your skip 1, 2, and into the 3rd one you make a half double crochet, and then you yarn over and you repeat the puff. So you go into this space between this and this, and then you make 5 incomplete half double crochet. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, and that's 5, and then you pull through all of them. Then you yarn over, you skip 1, 2, into the 3rd one, you make a half double crochet, yarn over and repeat the puff. So go into that space, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 incomplete half double crochets, yarn over, pull through all, yarn over, skip 2, half double crochet, and repeat this until you get to the bottom. So I did my last one, and now I'm going to close this off. So I'll just make a double crochet in the last stitch, a half double crochet, chain 1, and then we'll cut this off and sew in the ends later. Okay, so we are done. So now we're done with this. What we need to do is the sides. We need to leave for the sleeves and then sew this together and then do the sleeves on that. Okay, so let's do that next. So for the armhole, I took a tape measure, measured around the biggest part of my arm, which was 10 inches, and then added 2 inches to that and made it 12 just for some allowance. So 12 divided by 2 is 6, and I'm going to leave 6 inches from top to where I want my armhole to start. So do the same, measure around your arm, add 2 inches, or if you want it bigger, you can add more inches to that, and then divide that number by 2, and that's how many inches you leave. And then we're going to close off this one. So I'm going to turn this inside out like this. The wrong side is inside, and then I'm going to sew from here till my stitch marker with a slip stitch. So reattach the yarn at the bottom like so, and then we're going to slip stitch until I get to this place. So I'll just go in with slip stitches. So slip stitch all the way until you get to where you put your stitch marker, and I'll meet you there. All right, so I sewed all the way from down here all the way here, and this is how it looks. Not the neatest, but looks okay. So now we're going to work the sleeve, and we're going to work the sleeve in rounds. So what you're going to do is I'm going to pull this, yeah, and then turn this again to the right side like this. This is my right side, right? And then try to find my yarn, which is here. So I'm going to take out the stitch marker from here. All right, so now we are going to work around this as we add our sleeve. So you'll chain 3, and chain 3 will count as a stitch. So you are going to go into this first stitch here, and you're going to make a double crochet. So we are working in these rows like we did before. So that's 1, and then I'm going to go at the top, okay, of the stitch. That's 2, and then in the middle of the stitch I'm going to add 2. So like how we did the single crochet rows, this is how we're going to do the same here. And then at the top I'm going to add 1 double crochet, and then next row is 1 double crochet at the top of the stitch, another double crochet in the next stitch, 2 double crochets, and then at the top of the stitch 1 double crochet, which means I'm putting 5 stitches in every 2 rows. Okay, every 2 rows has 5 stitches, every 2 rows 5 stitches. All right, so you're going to go all around, and I'll meet you back down here. I went all around and I came back here. So this is what I have. So I'm back here at the bottom of the sleeve, and what we're going to do is go on top of this chain 3 that we did first, and then going to make a slip stitch like this to close it off. and then you're going to chain 3, sorry 2, you're going to chain 3 because it counts as a stitch, 3, and then turn your work. We're going to be turning because we want the same pattern as here, so yarn over. Instead of going into this very first one, we'll go into the next one and we'll go into the front loop like we're doing before, only like this, and make a double crochet, front loop only, and you're going to do this until you get to the end of the round. So you go all around and come back here, and I'll meet you there. So I went all around and I'm coming to the end. So just do my last 2 double crochets, and I'm at the end. So I'll go on the top of the chain 3 and close it off with a slip stitch like that, and then it's just going to be a repeat, chain 3, turn your work, and double crochet in the next stitch, only the front loop, all right. So just continue like that, the same pattern like row 2, and until you have enough rows. I'll come tell you how many rows I will do for that part. Okay, so this is where we are now. I did 5 rows all rounds, and that's about an equivalent of 2.5, about 2.25 inches. You can add more rows if you like, or less, depends on how you like the fit. And now we're going to do the collar. So for the collar, we are going to start from one end. So I think I'll start here. So one side of the collar, I'm going to start from this row that has our single crochet rows. Then you reattach your yarn, and we're going to be using double crochets, and the first chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so I'm going to chain 2, and in this same stitch I'll make a double crochet like that, and I'm going to go into every stitch with a double crochet. So we are going to make a double crochet in every stitch all along here, all the way until we are back here. Okay, so from one side to the other side. So I came all along like this, all the way until back here. So for round 2, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So we're going back to the pattern that we used for this. So the first stitch, you make a double crochet in the 2 loops, and then the next stitch we're going to work only in these front loops. So you're going to work in the front loop, 1 double crochet in every front loop, like this all along until here. Then make a double crochet in both loops, chain 2, turn your work, repeat like that, just like what we did with these panels or this panel. Okay, and then I'll come let you know how many I did. So this is my top. I tried it on once I was done and it was too short at in the front, so now I have to change the design. So if you get the length that you like, that's it. But if you want this design that I'm going to make, then you can also go ahead and do that. So what we are going to do, I want it flared at the bottom. So I am going to reattach my yarn here, because I will leave it open here. So reattach your yarn somewhere here like this, and I'm going to use double crochets just to keep it simple. So chain 2, and then I'm going to go into every stitch with 2 double crochets. Okay, so this will count as a stitch, so I'll go in that same stitch, make another double crochet. Okay, and then go into the next stitch that you see, make a double crochet in that very same stitch, make another double crochet, next stitch 1 double crochet in the same stitch, second double crochet. So I'll just go on making 2 double crochets in every stitch. So go all around until we are here. Part, I'm putting 2 double crochets in every stitch for this, but if you want less ruffles, just a little bit of a flared part, then you can make an increase after every other stitch. So 2 double crochets, and then in the next stitch no increase, then 2 double crochets, and then in the next stitch no increase, like that, and then you have less of a ruffle, just a little bit of a flare. Yeah, so this is what I have so far, and I'm coming to the end of that row. So this is going to be my last stitch. So in that last stitch I just put 2 double crochets like that. So we have these buttons just in between, and I'm now just going to be going until this way, then go all around until this way. So we are turning our work every time. So I'm going to chain 2, then turn my work, and I think I will just go ahead and still work this pattern of where I work only in the front loops. So now we will stop our increases. This is how the ruffle is looking, right? So I stop the increases, and now for the next row I'm just working 1 double crochet in every stitch. So this chain 2 will not count as a stitch, so I'll just go in here and make a double crochet in this first stitch, and then I'm just going to work only in the front loops, just 1 double crochet in every front loop. This other first row I worked both loops just to make sure it is more secure. So now I'm only working front loop. Like that. So it looks like this on this other side. So you're just going to work that, and once we get here, I'll come. It's basically the same like how we're doing the front panels and the back panels. So once you get here, just chain 2, double crochet, and then work the front loop. So I don't need to come back for that until you have the length that you like, and then I'll come so that we can, yeah, do until you have the length that you like. So I'm done. I did a couple of rows and I have about 5.25 inches long. You can make it longer or shorter depending on what you prefer. And yeah, once I was done with the last row, I just continued and did single crochets along this place, like single crochets, came down here, cut off my yarn, and that's it, just to clear out the edges. So yeah, I hope you like it. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you liked it. I'll see you in the next tutorial. But before that, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And thank you for everyone that shares, that likes, that comments. I really appreciate your support. And if you like written patterns, I have an Etsy shop, Etsy Crochets. I'll leave the links in the description box. You can check it out for some of the patterns that I write. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.